This is episode 54. I am so happy that you're here and thank you for joining my show, your coach, Helen Yuskovic. I am on a worldwide mission to help people get confident in putting themselves first because I used to put myself second my whole life. And because of that, I experienced every unhealthy relationship possible. An unhealthy relationship with myself, my health, my wealth, my intimate relationships, my family, my friends, and my career. I'm now living in an abundance that I used to just dream about. So I want to pave the way for you too. It's time, guys. It's time that you live in the life of your dreams as well. So let's take a step towards that right now. P.S. Subscribe to my podcast on your app now so that you always tune in to my new episodes. I just wanted to pop in here and let you know about 2 events that I have coming up. The first one is a self-care event, physical self-care event, June 26th. So for those of you that live in Sydney, Australia, I have a beautiful 2.5-hour workshop that involves foam rollering, trigger ball work, stretch, meditation, yin yoga, and a whole bunch of beautifulness. And if you're interested in that, I'll put a link below in the show notes so that you can attend. I also have the annual Whole Health Alkaline Cleanse coming up, and that is starting July 1st to July 10th. It is basically a 10-day detox where we spend 10 days together just giving back to our bodies. There's a few protocols that you have to take, so if you're interested, just register your details on my email, which is info@wholehealth, wholehealth.com.au, and I'll send you more information. Now let's get into it. Welcome to the show. I'm laughing because this is take 2. We didn't record the first time, so we're going again. I have the beautiful Karen Lebsanft on the call with me today, and Karen is a proud Burra woman. She is a community-focused leader coming from nothing and forging through the challenges of loss, identity, breakups, breakdowns, to eventually build a successful business that has allowed her to create life-changing opportunities through holding belief. And I'm sure once she starts talking, you'll know exactly what this business is. So Karen, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Helen. It is very good to be here. I'm really pleased, very blessed. Thank you so much for having me.
Can you tell us, Karen, a little bit about you, your life, your history with your work and your career, and where you are now? How has your life unfolded for you?
Absolutely. Let's start with where I am today. So today I'm actually a speaker, and I take the story of my business that I've built over the last 28 years to storytelling, to actually tell the story out to communities. And what that business has been and is Kurrajong Kitchen Lavosh. So hopefully your listeners will know that product. We've been sitting in Australian pantries for 28 years, served on chefs' tables across the nation, and served in airlines when they're flying, of course. So really proud to be able to say we've built that.
Yeah, it's biscuits, right?
Yeah, biscuits, little square crackers that you serve with your cheese and dips, and you wander the supermarkets, etc., or grab them in your favourite deli, fruit market, quite possibly have very much seen them on a chef's table at a restaurant, an event. You would have had Kurrajong Kitchen Lavosh, and they're very distinctive when you look at them. So, yes, well known.
So amazing that you have a well-known business.
Exciting, because in reality, I think, you get caught up in your journey, and for us, it's just what we do. And when I say us, it's Ben, my business partner, and it's for 28 years. And we started off, if I go back a little bit, we started back in 1993 when we were serving lavosh on our restaurant on our cheese platters. Now, we did not invent lavosh, and I always like to say that because people think they have to come up with a new idea. But what we managed to do was bring it to market to the Australian consumer and teach them what it was and how to use it. Because if you go back, and you are no doubt not old enough, but if you go back to then, people were serving Jats crackers on their entertaining platters, and the aspiration was Carr's water crackers, the black packet on the supermarket shelf, top shelf. And we found a niche in between. And 28 years on, we're still here. Family business, Australian owned, Australian made, manufactured. So that's amazing. So I always say we fell into manufacturing by accident, because it was 30 packets back then per week, serving it on the cheese platters, and then having it in a basket at the door, where our customers just wanted to grab it and take it home to impress their friends. And then that sort of drove us further. Today we bake 756,000 pieces a day on average. So it is a massive jump. But over 28 years, we just kept hanging in. And I think that's what my story is about: sustainability and resilience, and keep going, the ability to keep going.
How did you take this risk to begin this business in the first place, Karen? And when and how did you realize that you were becoming a household name?
I think, so how did we take the risk? I think once you realise, people are really liking this idea, is there an opportunity further? And I wasn't the one who was driven by that. That was Ben. He's chef. I call him Master Baker. Ben is Master Baker. He bakes and didn't create the product, as I said, but created our version of the product, because it's a little bit, the origin of lavash is Armenian flatbread, and each little village would have had its own recipe. So there are plenty of lavash makers out there. You could make lavash at home if you like, but we became the convenience factor, and we allowed that and also onto chefs' tables. So if I go back a bit, to start, it wasn't, hey, look at me, I've got a great product, Mr. Supermarket, would you like to see me? That was the journey that just took a little bit longer. So we started selling our 30 packets a week, and I say that to a distributor who was selling it to food service, selling it to chefs. So it was chef baking for chef. So there was a trust there. We also were selling into hamper companies, and people would ring us when they got the packet and go, oh, where can I get this from? So it was driven off the back of that. We also had people who had it served in a restaurant that we didn't know, and they would ring us, and they would actually ask the waiter or waitress at the time can you tell us where this product comes from? And the waiter or waitress would have to go back house and grab the label and come back and tell them. And that story we heard many times over, so it wasn't just a one-off. So we went, it was very exciting. So the jump forward each stage we've increased has been probably driven from that. However, I always like to share a story about a defining moment in 1997. So I'm talking 93, that was in the restaurant. By 1997, it's sort of you've got the energy, you're growing your business in the first 4 years. And then we had been married in 96. We were wanting to have children, going, what is this? We were still doing some catering, some function centre management, juggling. I will say lavash was our side hustle in these days, as to what the words and terminology people are really familiar with. Lavash was our side hustle that we decided just to invest in. And what made the decision for that? We took a stand at Fine Food Show in Sydney. That's a massive show. It attracts about 20,000 people, international visitors, when COVID's not around. And you would always have, that was the show to be at. So we took a stand. Last minute, I remember it was dressed, the way the stand was dressed was, it's horrible to think about how I dressed it, but I knew we had to be there. It was an investment of $3,500. Now, back then, small business, that's huge. You go, if I'm going to spend $3,500, and there were certainly some, I'll call it argy-bargy about do we, don't we, about do we spend, don't we spend, and we decided, yes, we would spend, because we had to understand, was there the $3,500 was either an investment to grow the business or an investment to make a decision to get out of the business. So that was a really good investment. Paid the $3,500, had a number of people coming to us. The best lead we got was a Coles supermarket manager. He came along, he was managing a concept store. Love your product, your packaging won't work, and he worked with us and he gave us a listing, and we got into Coles, and it's why the product exists in Australian pantries today. It was the first reason why the pantry exists in Australian pantries today.
Before that, Karen, did you have a desire to start this company, or did you meet with your business partner and say, hey, I've got an idea, how about we start creating these things? Or did he come to you? Or how did you even start to even think that this was doable?
I think that's a little bit out of passion, Helen, as well. People have a passion and a desire and they understand where their heart sits. My role, when we talk about Lavash, I always say, so Ben is master baker. My experience was to deliver to every consumer, every customer who came into that restaurant and explain to them the journey of Lavash, what they were eating, why they were eating, the benefits of eating, etc., or why we served it, all those bits. So my role in that was to give them the experience that we wanted them to walk away with. So from that angle, when it was like, gee, Ben would keep baking and then he's, there's been a lot of upgrades in process. That's very process system driven. And especially if you think of a chef, the process of chef is food in, food out, food in on a plate, food out type of thing. It's a process driven system. So jumping to manufacturing, whilst I say we fell into manufacturing by accident because of this, the process of baking and upscaling that was a process driven. My role was to come in and go, yes, let's deliver that experience. So I think and it was in fact my partner who said, let's give this a go. And then of course what we're really good at doing, when we say let's give this a go, we started to talk to people and going, what do you think? Sort of thing. And you don't talk to your friends, by the way, because they'll all often give you the yeah. They're not the ones putting the risk on the line. You've got to talk beyond that. You've got to talk to either industry or someone else who's done a business or can give you some real feedback and some real questions to ask yourself.
So you were in a business already and your partner was the chef and you guys were delivering these goods in your restaurant, and then this new idea came about and you just sort of took it and ran.
Yeah, I think we did. That's exactly what we did. But also too, if you think about, restaurants, I can honestly say to you, anybody who wants to buy a restaurant, it looks much prettier when you're a consumer than what it does from back of house, okay? And from trying to make those numbers work, and these days even greater. And we've seen the incidents of restaurants pivoting in COVID or closing down, or even at a high end. There's not money to be made, and the reality is those businesses are your labor going in. They're very labor intensive, etc., as is manufacturing, and saying that, but we couldn't see a future for that, and we couldn't deliver a future or get to a broader market at all. So I think the desire to go, yeah, well, it's a great idea, and then start to apply our own learnings from the restaurant. Incidentally, when we were in that restaurant, we won a marketing award for a curry night we held in one of the food magazines back then. Just going, we're just us doing this. Yeah, we'll enter that. And we did. So I think those little wins, whatever those wins look like, and they don't have to be awards, give you inspiration, encouragement, and that confidence just to go, oh, yeah, I think I can.
That's so great. I think what we can take away from that is to always be open to an opportunity, even though you are in the midst of something else. That's beautiful. Karen, it's time for your first curveball. Are you ready to play? Your first curveball is, what is something that most people do not know about you?
Well, most people on this call won't know. Certainly on this podcast won't know. I'm actually a twin. And yes, I have a twin sister. We're not identical, but we certainly look alike, and we're incredibly close. And it's really nice to be able to have had that person come through life with you. That's also been a challenge as well, but it's certainly nice.
Does she work with you?
She has over many times. These days, she has her own amazing business that she's building up, and I help her wherever I absolutely can. And she's becoming her own businesswoman in her own right, which is really nice to see.
You guys are so entrepreneurial. Karen, I'm just curious, was there a time where you wanted to throw in the towel? Was there ever a struggle, and Can you talk us through that and what your mindset was, and if you had to shift it, how did you do that?
I will say openly, there was many times I wanted to throw in the towel. And that was from either being a mum, having had two children and doing the mum balance, the guilt mum balance of going, where is it? There's times when I've wanted to, and I'm sorry about the noise in the background, but that's trucks delivering lavash taking lavash out the door. So I have to say, it's okay. So the mum guilt I would have had, and going, I've had enough of this at times, even when my first child was born. And if you think about this, we were back in the time where there was no MasterChef, there was no My Kitchen Rules, no farmers markets, there was no, IT, computer technology, apps, startups, all those words did not exist in the startup of our business. So we were, handwritten books, etc. So having a 6-week-old baby but still needing to do the wages, for example, I'm going, I don't want to do this anymore. But it's not as easy to just throw it in as much as you might choose to. Look, we had a challenge. We actually thought, I'll take you to 2012, but I'll tell you a little story about 2004. So in 2004, we were on the shelf. And so 2004, we've really been on the shelf in Coles since 1998. That was whilst we started baking in 93. 1998, we were on the shelves. By 2000, we were on Woolworths shelves, and 2004, we had an established brand. It's still very, very young, so it's like trying to get its feet and just trying to establish where we're going. Well, Arnott's comes out with a lavash in a range and puts it on the shelf. Now, of course, as a family business, invested everything, you put risk in everything. We really thought we were dead in the water, but it gave us a little bit of, we weren't prepared to go down without a fight. So what we did, we thought outside the square, and I love this story because it does have a good ending, and I share that because I'll just explain the process. We put a small note in every packet, and it did not name the company. I can name it now because we're still here. It did not name the company at all. And we just said, this is a David and Goliath battle. We need you to continue to buy us and support us and tell your friends. And in the end, and they also priced higher than us, so they took the high ground. We're better than you. We're Arnott's. We can do as we please. And you're a small family business. You're trying to manufacture and build an Australian brand. And we came out, and they did take the high ground. The outcome is we outsold them 2-1, as explained by the buyer to us, and we did stay on the shelf. Yes, and it's a real big yay because their small range of savoury was taken off the shelf over time. And I love that story because it's like, don't give in. There's plenty of Me Toos out there. We all have a Me Too brand, somebody trying to do something the same as us, carry off what we're trying to do. It's just stay in your lane and be true to that. I really, that mindset there. I jumped you to 2012 because by 2012, we're in the business 19 years and we nearly lost the business. And I say hook, line and sinker, the home, we nearly lost absolutely everything. It was so scary. It was incredibly scary. We're in a really dark period. And it came off the back of, I think, either getting two things, getting wrong advice, not having enough belief in ourselves, and that's where I think I've learned about belief more than anything. Not having enough belief in our own abilities and our own judgments and our own assessments, thinking that we were still the small guy sitting there, and that we needed all these people to help us along the way. We still need people to help us, but I think we were still thinking we were back there when we're here. Now, we managed to successfully turn that business around with a lot of juggling, and restructured our business. And at the time, what we did do, though, we went to it, and it came also off the back of an agreement we were in. That company was bought out by a large Chinese company, and they remodeled their structure. So our tail end of our products were taken off their list. And under our agreement, we didn't have anywhere to put those products. So we had, if you think about it, we had packaging for all those products, we had film, we had everything was worked around that. We had a business model set up to have all those products selling through the distributor. So that was really scary. We remodeled, we got ourselves, we went back to, we talked to all our suppliers and we set up payment plans. We were very open and honest and said we didn't go to hide. Or as much as you want to bury yourself in the sand, and you're building a brand that is 19 years, not necessarily in saying that, 19 years old, been on the shelf, that's 14 years, in the supermarket shelf at that point, 14 years. So you're known, and to think that you were going to just fade into nothing after incredible hard work, risk, everything you'd given to go, it's just going to be taken away because of this decision. So we did remodel, and we really just were a little wiser in our decision choices. And it was relying on each other, to tell you the truth, to get through in terms of saying, right, just certainly put business in and talk business in that space of business time, because I probably learned from that more than anything is that, as small business owners, medium business, whatever size business, you always bring your business into your personal life, because then people talk about and people know you for your business, and the chat comes into the home, and then it dominates into, it becomes an all consuming, and you have to learn to separate yourself from that business chat to be able to go forward. Really, in all honesty, I came down to, living on $20 a week during that time, and that doesn't allow for makeup from a girl or anything at all. And I really did have belief that we could get through it. We'd built that. It was nice. First of all, we recognised what went wrong. Really clear to us. We sat down and analysed what went wrong before we, what did we do? What contributors were we to it? Because it wasn't, gee, that model just changed. What did we do? And once we faced it, almost face your fear, once we faced it, we could actually set a plan in place to get out of it. It wasn't easy, far from it, but we're still here, and that's really nice to know.
I love that. You basically think outside the box. I loved how you put the notes in the packaging. That is genius and such a human touch that not many people would get with anything that they buy. And I love that whenever you are faced with a challenge, you're like, no, this isn't going to get me down. What next? And I want to dive into that a little bit further, but it's time for your second curveball. Are you ready to play?
I'm ready to play, Helen.
I am known as the self-care queen. So my question to you is, what is your favorite form of self-care?
If you'd asked me that a few years ago, that would have been a little bit different. What is my favorite form of self-care? I'm not an exercise fanatic, far from it, but I really recognise the value of that, and I probably am currently, even the more I love to get out. I do love to get outside, and probably when I talk about the self-care, I engage with women on hikes, 3-4 times a year. So go away for a period. It might be a weekend. It might be a few days. I've got one booked to the Sapphire Coast in October, I think. And I'm really looking forward to that. And they're things that help me escape, an acknowledgement that I need that self-care, because there were many times over those years, I can guarantee I was on the bottom of that list. There was, of course, my husband, my children, and even the community, I would say, ahead of me, and the business, of course. And then I would prioritise myself down there. So these days I realise self-care is not selfish, as people would often think. I can't do that because I'm not looking after them, especially mums. Can't do that because, sort of thing, I have to give to them before I can give to me. But my learning over some of the challenges we've had is that if I cannot look after myself, I cannot look after everybody else. And that's the best takeout.
That's beautiful. And someone as entrepreneurial as you, because you are an aspiring speaker too, I think balance is one of the things that, you need to master well so that you can, as you said, pour from a full cup, not from a half cup, because you're inspiring a lot of people now. And I just want to finish off with one more thing. People usually have that negative voice in their head. That negative voice, that negative self-chatter is usually what holds people back from any goal that they set or any dream that they wish to manifest. And I'd love to know how you conquer yours, and are there certain things that you do to stay on top of your game? How do you constantly have this positive self-talk?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because I think part of it is I always go, just do sort of thing. But I think if I go back to analyze it, I do have a belief that anything is possible. Once I have that belief, then I have to make a decision is, do I want to engage with that belief to actually achieve it? Whether it's possible or not, I don't bash myself up for going, I could do that, but I'm not going to, and I don't play those in my head going, yes, no. I do probably when that talk comes into my head, and I think I've probably spent the last 3.5 years, I'll say, healing and learning about myself. So I have a much greater awareness of all of that balance. I think a couple of things I do when I'm very much a visual person. I visualize everything. So in my head, I'm going, there's my negative list for this outcome. There's my positive list. What's going to be the good and the bad, and what don't I like? But I also give myself, at the beginning of that process, permission to question it. Right? So if I give myself permission to question it, it's okay. So I've got a lot happening in my life at the moment. I've actually given myself permission to breathe, right? To stop and breathe, because, and just by saying that to myself, and I actually was saying that to somebody else in a text message the other day, I've given myself permission to breathe. And it's actually okay, because I talk about that you get on that treadmill of life and you just don't know how to get off. Or the bang, in 2012, the bang, somebody hit the stop button for you and you went flying off the back of the treadmill and you had to work out how to, claw your way back. Or could you just turn it down a little and just keep going? Or it's okay to hop off, pop it on pause, grab that drink of water and come back on. And I know, so that's how do I do it? I think I give myself permission to be able to talk it through and work it out.
That's amazing. I actually just visualized that whole thing. That's such a beautiful analogy, the treadmill of life. And that is why Karen Lebsanft is Karen Lebsanft. She's just full of inspirational things. So, Karen, is there any last parting words of wisdom that you want to share? How can people connect with you? What's next for you? Any little bit of insight that you want to share?
I think I just want to, I do have a very big connection with community and culture. And I think when you think people, and certainly from a business point of view, the people who come into our lives and in our business and cross our paths for that, they're people, they're real people. They're just not numbers coming through the door. I also have a belief, Helen, that people come into your life for a reason. So wherever we're sitting here and talking, there's something that I am getting out of it equally as much as giving. And that's incredibly important to know. And I might not realise exactly that moment that, that's why we're sitting here having the conversation. But I will take it and go, when I need it, and use it. So be really open to it. I love to go out and inspire people and help through the conversation and through my what I call master storytelling, share the story. So my website is karenlebsanft.com, and I just encourage people to jump on there and have a look and listen to my story there, or jump even over to kurrajongkitchen.com.au and they can see the story, the little bit of the journey of Kurrajong Kitchen with some great photos as well. It's been a pleasure.
Perfect. I'll put both of those links on the show notes at the bottom of this show. And I can't thank you enough for sharing your time with me today. It's been sensational.
Absolute pleasure indeed. I look forward to another conversation with you another day.
What a brilliant mindset, right, guys? I hope you really enjoyed that chat as much as I did, and I hope it inspired you to take action if you have been coasting a little bit this year, and if you needed that little bit of extra motivation and push to move forward, to take a step forward so that you can progress to whatever it is that your heart desires, because you can manifest your dream life. And I want you to always believe that. Thank you times infinity for spending time with me. It really means a lot. Putting yourself first will really help escalate your goals, your dreams, and I love being on the journey with you. So make sure you come and tell me on my Instagram at Whole Health, which is HOL_health, and comment below this podcast photo to share your thoughts on my show today. And if you enjoyed it, please leave me a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify so that I can keep bringing amazing value to you. I'm sending you truckloads of love, power, and joy. Bye for now.